Hi, I recently came across, I noticed it in one painting, and then when I saw it, I realized that I had seen it before in another painting, and so I wanted to share with you what I discovered. But before we get started with that, please select thumbs up that you like the video. It helps with the algorithm. If you have any questions or comments during the video, please post them below. And please click subscribe and ring that bell to be updated when new videos come out. Now, what I was looking at was a painting, and in that painting I noticed on Margaret of Austria's, on her hood, there were seashells lining her hood. And I recognized that I had seen those types of seashells before in a painting elsewhere. This type of seashell is known as a calico scallop shell. So that's where it's rounded and then it looks like it has like a little, we'll call it a tail on either side. And with this shell, I had also seen it previously, and that is on a painting of, I believe it's Katherine of Aragon. The painting is at the Kunsthistorisches Museum, and they have this painting listed as being Mary Tudor, sister to King Henry VIII. But if you zoom in on that painting, you will see she has a necklace that has the letter K going all around the necklace. To me, it makes more sense that the necklace that has the letter K repeating all throughout the necklace, K for Katherine rather than K for Mary. But before I get ahead of myself, first, since they both had seashells, one painting is from 1490 and the other one's from 1514. So we're talking technically two different centuries, but only, 24 years apart. But paintings, portraits during this time were very symbolic. Well, you're paying a lot of money to have your portrait painted and you want to put your best foot forward. So if you want to advertise that you are wealthy, then you will put on your best clothing. And think of it in modern times as me wearing my latest name brand everything, standing in front of my yacht. You want to show off something to the world. So in a lot of historical paintings, you will find if they wanted to say they were really religious, they might have a Bible somewhere in the background. If they want to show that they're studious, there is a portrait of Princess Elizabeth before she became Queen Elizabeth I, and in that painting, you'll see she has a Bible opened up behind her. She also is holding a book and has her finger inside the book, and that's to show that she is studious. There is another painting, and it is iconic because it has a skull near the bottom, but it's stretched out, so you actually have to look at the painting from the side to make the skull look like it's normal. And with this one, they have instruments and all sorts of scientific things all around them, behind them, and that's to show that those two gentlemen were up to date on the latest scientific and political things going on at that time. So with these paintings, you want to show off maybe how rich you are, how smart you are, religious, pick something. And so with both of these ladies, Margaret of Austria and with Katherine of Aragon, I thought it was interesting that they would both choose to have seashells somewhere on their person. Because when looking at many other portraits during this time period, I found it very rare. In fact, I found seashells where you might have Madonna with child and then someone was standing on a seashell, or there might be a seashell shape above them that was part of the church architecture. But these two were the only paintings I found where seashells were on their person, which made me then dive deeper and find out why they would choose seashells. If no one else was doing this, why them? Why seashells? But also, what is the symbolism behind seashells? This seashell, the calico scallop seashell, has a few different symbols with it. One is that it symbolized love, it symbolized fertility. It also was representative of the Immaculate Conception. It was also the pilgrimage badge for St. James, and this specific pilgrimage was one of the most popular, going to Santiago de Compostela. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. Please correct me below. So, seashells that stand for love and fertility, well, that takes me back to these two particular ladies. Margaret of Austria, when her portrait was painted, she was 10 years old. And then, well, who I think is Katherine of Aragon, even though the museum says it might be Mary Tudor, but what was going on between 1490 and also in 1514? In 1490, Margaret of Austria was 10 years old. She had been engaged when she was about 3 years old to Charles, who was the Dauphin of France. And I think that this painting may have been something to remind him of their betrothal, because she was 3 years old. It was, what, 1483? Yes, 1483. She was born in 1480. So 1483, and they were betrothed. So fast forward 7 years, here is a portrait of your intended. Here is a reminder. She is 10 years old, but she is in love. She is devoted. We don't know this for sure, but that's what the painting is probably trying to help portray. And so she has seashells going along the hood of her hood. But as we know from studying history, that then Charles then in 1491 canceled the betrothal, and then later she was married to Prince John from Spain, but that's all in the future, because when the portrait was painted in 1490, I believe that the symbolism with the seashells was trying to show and remind that she is fertile, she is a virgin, she is in love or will be in love, and to remind the intended of what his prospective bride will bring to the table. Again, that's just my assumption of studying this art piece. Then we fast forward to 1514, and with the portrait that I believe is Katherine of Aragon, and she is wearing seashells right along her neckline. So it's a square neckline, and there are seashells, and it's the same calico scallop shells going all around her neckline. And then if she's trying to portray love and fertility, we have to ask ourselves what was going on. In 1509, Henry VIII ascends the throne. He becomes King Henry VIII of England. So after King Henry VIII and Catherine get married, very quickly she becomes pregnant. However, I believe that one was a stillbirth, and that was in 1510. Then next, she gets pregnant again fairly quickly, and she gives birth. This child was born, and I believe it was early January, and then like late February, like February 22nd, the prince dies. Then she gets pregnant again. It's another stillbirth, and that was in 1513. So when this painting was painted, it was circa 1514, and she's pregnant again. And as we know from history, we know that she had multiple pregnancies, and only one lived to adulthood, and that was Mary, Princess Mary, who later became Mary I, otherwise known as Bloody Mary, who only reigned for about 5 years, and then she died, and then we had Queen Elizabeth I. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So when this painting was painted about 1514, we know that she has already had at least 3 pregnancies. She's pregnant again, and I think she's trying to help remind the world how fertile she is, because we know she can get pregnant, but also maybe hoping for fertility for herself, for hoping for continued love in the marriage, because we know at the very beginning of the marriage, Henry was completely devoted to her, but as time rolled on and they had all of this sadness and disappointment with pregnancy after pregnancy after pregnancy, it definitely wore on the marriage. And so I think from a symbolism perspective, she is trying to help portray that there is love, there is fertility. If anything, maybe trying to portray this to the world, but maybe also remind herself and encourage herself. Again, it's symbolism, it's art. You can read into it however you want. What one person might interpret it as, someone else might interpret it differently. But again, I just thought that this was interesting, that I found a portrait and then went back and looked at another portrait because I knew I'd seen that before. And I just found it interesting that two very important ladies in this time period were both wearing seashells on their clothing. Now, I am guessing that these seashells were not real seashells, but that they were made out of metal, meant to look like seashells. And based on the artist's portraits of them, I think they did a really good job with making these seashells look like seashells, but I don't think that they were real seashells. I think it was metal made to look like seashells. The next question would be then, what was that metal made out of? And I don't know. Well, if you have any ideas, suggestions of what these seashells were made out of, if you think they really were wearing seashells, or were the shells made out of metal, and if so, which metal, please post your comments below. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more of my videos, please follow the links on the left-hand side. Remember to select thumbs up that you like the video. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And please click subscribe and ring that bell to be updated when new videos come out.